Imagine this. Speaking more than one language isn't just, ordering coffee in Paris. It can actually delay Alzheimer's symptoms kicking in by, what, 4.5 years?
It's quite staggering, yeah. And that's just one reason we're diving deep today into why learning a second language, and we'll use French as an example, is just so important.
That Alzheimer's point is fascinating. You were saying it holds true across different groups.
Yeah, exactly. Studies show this delay pretty much regardless of health, economic background, education, even gender. It really seems to be the bilingualism itself that's key.
Okay, right. So if you're listening because maybe you want that promotion, the one needing international skills.
Or you're dreaming of traveling and really connecting.
Or just want to keep your brain sharp, or connect with other cultures. This deep dive is definitely for you. We've gone through the research, pulled out the real, tangible benefits. We're not talking boring grammar drills here.
No, definitely not. We're looking at the cognitive boosts, career doors opening, the surprising creativity link.
And even how learning a new language improves your first one.
Exactly. We want to unpack the real significance today, grounded in solid research, multiple layers of benefit.
Expect some aha moments, hopefully, but without feeling overwhelmed.
That's the plan. Shall we start with the brain?
Yes, let's do it. The brain boost. We hear it's a great mental workout, and the science really backs this up, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's not just an analogy. It genuinely seems to help grow gray matter.
So like lifting weights for your muscles, but for your brain structure.
Kind of, yeah. And neurologically, what's really interesting is how the brain activity shifts.
How so?
Well, your native language mostly uses the left side, the left hemisphere.
Okay.
But when you tackle a second language, boom, both hemispheres light up.
Right.
And that increased activity, it leads to growth in white matter, that's the communication network, and gray matter, the processing bits.
And that connects back to the Alzheimer's and dementia research.
Directly. That finding is really remarkable. Adults speaking more than one language showed those first signs much later than monolinguals.
4.5 years later, on average.
Which, when you think about aging populations worldwide, that's huge, a significant delay.
Huge impact on quality of life and society, too.
Definitely.
And it's not just long-term health, is it? What about, right now? Our attention spans feel shorter than ever.
It's a common complaint, right? But language learning can be sort of an antidote.
How does that work?
Well, the mental juggling involved, constantly switching between languages, even subconsciously.
Right.
That strengthens your ability to focus, to filter out the noise. Your brain is constantly deciding which language system to use, which to ignore.
That sounds like that inhibitory control thing I read about.
Exactly. It's like a mental spam filter. Your brain gets better at tuning into what's relevant and blocking distractions.
And that's especially noticeable in certain groups.
Yeah, research suggests bilingual kids and older adults often show stronger inhibitory control.
Which, in today's world, overflowing with information, that's a pretty valuable skill.
It really is a fundamental cognitive skill with benefits way beyond just language.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What about careers? Academic life. How does knowing another language help there?
It's a big deal. The world's more connected, businesses operate globally.
So demand for bilingual employees is up.
Steadily rising, yes. It can genuinely widen your job pool, maybe even speed up your career path.
Makes sense. Standing out in a competitive job market is tough.
And having a foreign language on your CV, that can be a real differentiator. I think you mentioned a Randstad study.
Yeah, something like a 37% better chance of getting the job.
That's the one. It signals more than just language, right? It suggests adaptability, cultural savvy.
A broader perspective.
Exactly. And think international business. The UN reports show how linked trade and investment are globally. Language skills are almost essential there.
You need to build rapport, understand nuances. Speaking the language must help massively.
It shows respect, smooths things over, builds trust. Absolutely.
And this applies to academia, too.
For sure. It opens doors to programs abroad, different universities. That whole study abroad experience is invaluable.
I bet. Employers must value that.
Hugely.
Yeah.
There was research, European Commission, I think, 92% of employers look for those skills you get from international experience.
Wow, 92%.
And something like 64% tend to give more responsibility to people with that background.
That really shows how much they value that global mindset, often built through language. Okay, fascinating. Let's move to something maybe less obvious. Creativity.
Ah, yes, the creativity link. It's intriguing. When you learn a language, you're not just learning words.
You're learning a culture.
Precisely. new ways of thinking, expressing ideas, and this exposure can boost originality, flexibility, and thought, hallmarks of creativity.
So your brain gets new tools, new perspectives.
Yeah.
It has to combine words differently, maybe sparking new connections.
That's a great way to put it. You're forced to be creative within the new language's structure. That process itself stimulates cognitive flexibility.
And that can spill over into other areas of life.
It often does, yeah. Enhances overall problem solving and innovation.
Okay, brain boost, career boost, creativity boost. What about, and this seems odd, improving your first language?
It does seem counterintuitive at first, doesn't it?
Literally.
But it makes sense when you think about how we learn our native tongue. Mostly intuitive. We don't consciously think about grammar rules usually.
Right, it just happens.
But learning a second language, that forces you to consciously grapple with grammar, sentence structure, vocabulary.
You have to learn the names for things like past participle or subjunctive mood.
Exactly. And that formal learning makes you suddenly aware of the structures in your own language.
Ah, so you start seeing the patterns you always used but never noticed.
Precisely. You compare, contrast, you see the differences in structure, idioms, word choices, and that heightened awareness. It makes you a better communicator in your native language, more precise.
Like looking at your first language through a magnifying glass. Okay, I get it. Now, multitasking. That's buzzword skill these days.
And bilinguals often excel at it, that constant mental switching between languages we talked about.
Yeah.
It seems to train the brain for switching between any tasks more efficiently. NIH studies have shown this.
So they're faster at shifting focus.
Often, yes. It's
Yeah.
a built-in cognitive cross-training. And interestingly, this benefit seems to hold up well with age.
So bilingualism might help keep your brain nimble as you get older.
Evidence points that way, yeah. More efficient brain function, preserving those task-switching skills.
And memory. All that vocabulary and grammar must be a workout.
Absolutely. Language learning is fantastic memory exercise. You're constantly learning, storing, retrieving information. Rules, words, tons of words.
The memory muscle gets stronger.
You could say that. Research shows bilinguals often do better on memory tasks, lists, names, numbers, directions. Just learning vocabulary itself boosts memory.
Okay, sharper thinking, better careers, more creative, better first language skills, multitasking pros, better memory. What else? Confidence, connections.
Definitely. Getting over that initial hurdle, the fear of making mistakes when speaking.
Yeah, that can be tough.
But when you push through and start actually communicating, even imperfectly, that's a massive confidence boost.
I can imagine. That feeling of accomplishment must be huge.
It really is. It builds self-esteem. And beyond that, it builds connections.
How so?
Well, you naturally expand your social circle. You can connect with people from different backgrounds, make new friends.
Especially when traveling, right?
Oh, totally. Knowing the local language transforms travel. You have deeper interactions, get local insights. It's much more immersive.
Which brings us nicely to cultural understanding. Language as a gateway to culture.
It's fundamental. Language is so tied to culture values, traditions, how people see the world. Learning it gives you much deeper insight.
And does that make you more open-minded?
It tends to, yes. Exposure to different ways of thinking, different nuances, fosters flexibility. You become more receptive to different viewpoints.
Like stepping into someone else's perspective, fostering empathy.
Exactly. You have to understand and appreciate differences to learn the language effectively. That naturally builds tolerance and empathy.
Okay, let's talk practical perks. Day-to-day stuff. Travel we mentioned.
Big one. Easier navigation, richer interactions, moving beyond just being a tourist.
Makes trips much more rewarding, I bet. What about work? Specifically remote work.
Yes. Multilingualism is a huge plus there, too. Lots of international companies need people with language skills for remote roles.
So could enable that whole digital nomad thing?
Potentially, yeah. Companies like Amazon, Spotify, Upwork, GitLab, they often have remote jobs needing languages.
Interesting. And what about just, enjoying stuff? Movies, music?
Oh, absolutely. Experiencing media in its original language, it's just richer. You catch nuances, jokes, cultural references that get lost in translation.
A more genuine experience.
Totally. And it sharpens your listening skills, too, as your brain deciphers the new sounds and rhythms.
Okay, one more thing on learning itself. If you learn one foreign language, does it make learning a third or fourth easier?
Generally, yes. That first experience builds a foundation. You understand how languages work, you develop learning strategies.
You know what to expect, maybe.
Exactly. You've built the scaffolding, so adding another language often feels less daunting, more efficient.
Good to know. Now, let's circle back quickly to improving your native language. We touched on awareness, but can we get more specific?
Sure. That conscious comparison we mentioned, it makes you really notice subtleties in your own language you likely ignored before.
Like vocabulary. Maybe you realize your native vocabulary is a bit limited in certain
It
areas.
can happen, yeah. You learn a nuanced word in the new language and think, huh, how would I say that precisely in English? It can motivate you to refine your native vocab.
And what about how you speak? Word choice.
Definitely. When you're speaking a foreign language, you often have to be much more deliberate, choose words carefully, think about context, audience.
Right, because it doesn't come automatically.
And that carefulness, that conscious effort, it transfers back. You become more mindful, more effective, even when speaking your native tongue. Less autopilot.
Less flight mode, more alert.
You got it. Plus, understanding the cultural context of the new language often deepens your appreciation for the cultural nuances embedded in your own native language, too.
Wow. Okay, so summing this all up, learning a second language is, well, it's a powerhouse.
It really is. Better brain power, career advantages, creativity, better first language skills, memory, multitasking.
Confidence, deeper connections, cultural understanding, practical benefits like travel, remote work. The list goes on.
It's so much more than just grammar and vocab, isn't it? It's about personal growth, broadening horizons, connecting with the world in a deeper way.
Absolutely. So the final thought for everyone listening is, considering all these impacts on your mind, your career, how you see the world, what possibilities could learning a new language unlock for you?
Maybe it's French, maybe it's something else entirely. But the potential for growth is just immense. We're thinking about, definitely.